When an essential institution, I mean, something as fundamental as a school, suddenly has to shut its doors, you get this immediate, palpable feeling of disruption.
You really do.
It's not just some technical glitch. It feels like a failure of the system, you know? Almost like the digital foundation of the community has cracked.
It is exactly that, a foundational fracture. For
Right.
years, we talked about cyber attacks as these abstract data breaches where records were quietly stolen.
Right. Something happening in the background.
Exactly. Now, the sources you've shared reveal a terrifying new normal. When the digital plumbing breaks down, the physical operation stops entirely.
So today we're doing a deep dive into those sources to understand the true cost, the actual day-to-day impact of these attacks, focusing specifically on educational institutions. We're going to map how these intensely local events fit into a much larger global picture of digital vulnerability that affects, well, everything from governments to gaming currencies.
And our mission here is to analyze not just the incident itself, but the duration of the disruption, and to connect those critical, often overlooked warnings about systemic vulnerability warnings that are lurking just behind the headlines.
We want to give you, the listener, the insight you need into this really complex reality of modern recovery.
That's the goal.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we should start right where the sources deliver the sharpest, most immediate pain, the reality of a school shutting down.
We need to look closely at the case of Heimling School. It's part of the Central England Academy Trust.
And it's a perfect example of what you're talking about, right? How that initial optimism about a quick fix just dissolves into chaos.
It really is. The early reports just a couple of days ago were, well, they were almost reassuring. They framed the incident as a temporary pause.
Yeah, the school was shut, cyber attack, but the public statement was that they hoped to reopen by Wednesday. It sounded like the digital equivalent of a snow day.
But that timeline, that's the first vital clue in this deep dive. Because just hours later, an update came out reporting a significant escalation.
So that hope of reopening Wednesday.
Completely abandoned, the school's reopening was delayed until the next week.
Wow.
And that delay, extending from a couple of days to nearly a full week of closure, is where the real cost begins to build up.
A full week. A full week of lost learning time, of parents scrambling for childcare, exams maybe being postponed. What does that kind of delay, moving from a 2-day fix to a 7-day fix, suggest about what the IT teams were actually facing?
I mean, they weren't just flipping a switch.
Clearly not.
Absolutely not. This suggests they were facing what we call a scorched earth scenario, probably ransomware or some kind of advanced persistent threat.
Okay, and what does that mean in simple terms?
It means you can't just restart the computers. The delay indicates a need for forensic analysis to even find out how the attacker got in, and that takes time. More critically, they have to re-image every single endpoint.
Every staff computer, every student terminal.
Every single one, to make sure the malware isn't just hiding somewhere, waiting to pop back up.
So they're basically taking the entire IT estate back to factory settings, system by system, while also trying to check if their backups, their safety net, haven't also been compromised.
Yes. It's a monumental, multi-day rebuilding project, not a quick patch.
And I imagine the moment that rebuilding starts, the question shifts from when can we reopen to
Data security.
which brings us to the next critical layer of risk. An operational shutdown is one thing, but the information they hold. I mean, is it truly sensitive data, or are we just talking about staff email addresses?
That's a very fair question because the word data gets thrown around a lot. But in a school trust, the data carries, well, lifelong and legal implications.
Right.
The source material references a council statement acknowledging that hackers possibly took sensitive data. For a school, this could be parent financial details, medical information, student records,
All kinds of things.
information that, if it leaks, could expose children to identity theft or even worse.
So the data theft, if it's confirmed, is so much worse than a lost email list. It's a profound compromise of trust and privacy. And that's compounded by the fact they can't even access those records while the systems are down.
And this leads us directly to what I think is the most critical failure highlighted by the sources, the historical warning.
Okay.
Because right alongside this news about Hyam Lane, the sources give us context that takes us back 2 years to the 2021 attack on Gloucester City Council.
And I'm guessing this isn't just a historical coincidence, it's a recurring theme.
It is. The specific nugget of concern raised after that older incident was about the future. Serious warnings were issued that a lack of adequate training could lead to future cyber attacks.
That shifts the focus completely, doesn't it? It's
Mhm.
no longer just a failure of sophisticated external defenses.
No, it's a failure of internal preparedness.
It implies these vulnerabilities: poor digital hygiene, not recognizing phishing, using weak passwords. These were known issues flagged years ago.
It's almost tragic, isn't it? It's the digital equivalent of ignoring a leaky roof until the entire ceiling collapses. The 2021 context suggests these basic vulnerabilities have been known for years.
So the closure of Higham Lane isn't just a failure of defense.
It's potentially the inevitable consequence of neglecting known training gaps and, frankly, underfunding IT staff. This ongoing risk isn't about the attackers being unbeatable, it's about the defenders being fundamentally unprepared.
Because of resource constraints. It's a systemic debt, what they call technical debt, that just accumulates until it causes a crisis.
Exactly.
So if a local school is struggling with this kind of asymmetric threat, we have to zoom out and ask, are they alone in this? Or are they just victims in a global battleground?
We have to pull back the lens to appreciate the context. The sources clearly show that every sector, regardless of budget or strategic importance, is under siege. This global perspective helps explain why a local academy trust faces threats that feel so disproportionate to their size.
Start at the highest level: national security. The sources confirm this threat targets the very core of governance.
Absolutely. The sources report that the UK government itself has been targeted. Trade Minister Sir Chris Bryant confirmed an ongoing inquiry because the government was hacked, information was accessed.
And if a national government with, state-of-the-art defenses and a massive budget is failing to fend these off, what does that say about the responsibility of a small school trust?
It sets the bar for defense almost impossibly high.
And then, stepping onto the geopolitical stage, the stakes get even higher. The sources mention Germany accusing Russia of a cyber attack.
Yes, targeting air traffic control and attempting electoral interference. It was serious enough that the Russian ambassador was summoned.
That's a crucial point. That kind of attack moves beyond just data theft.
It's an attempt to disrupt physical infrastructure, to threaten air travel, to interfere with democratic processes. It shows some threat actors are aiming for total disruptive chaos.
But the threat spectrum is just incredibly wide. And if you need proof that the motives range from state warfare all the way down to, pure digital larceny, you just have to look at the commercial impact.
Yes, the Ubisoft hack is a fascinating example. It's so mercenary.
Tell us about that.
The sources detail how Rainbow Six servers were affected, forcing the publisher to work to claw back billions of units of in-game currency that had been handed out to players.
Billions in digital loot. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does. But it highlights that whether the target is national security data, a student's school record, or just in-game currency, the entire digital environment is a massive target.
So if we connect this diversity of threats to the bigger picture, the resulting question for local authorities is just devastating.
It is. If major governments and global corporations spending billions are struggling, and the motives range from espionage to digital racketeering, what effective level of defense can a school trust realistically maintain?
They're fighting a full-spectrum war with a handful of security guards.
That's a good way to put it.
And that structural weakness is what sets the stage for the final, most profound aspect of the sources. This deep, hidden vulnerability that has been years in the making.
Our reliance on technology is just accelerating, which naturally expands what security professionals call the attack surface.
We should explain what that means for the listener.
Right. Think of your organization as a building. Every server, every employee laptop, every new piece of software that's a window or a door, a larger attack surface just means you have more windows and doors for hackers to try and open.
And our digital lives are becoming more integrated faster than our security can adapt. We get a fantastic snapshot of that from the Artificial Intelligence Security Institute, the AISI.
That data is fascinating.
They report that 1 in 3 people in the UK are using AI for emotional support and conversation. 1 in 25 people using it daily.
And what's so interesting there is that while it's not about an attack, it signals that the public is adopting these deep, highly personal technologies incredibly quickly.
So we're creating new, less understood vulnerabilities.
New windows, if you will. These run parallel to the old security gaps, like the lack of training we flagged earlier. We are constantly opening new digital doors while still struggling to lock the existing ones.
And that long-term systemic strain, the combination of constant attacks, massive recovery costs, expanding vulnerabilities, it doesn't just hurt the IT department, does it?
No, the cost ultimately hits local services.
Exactly. We see this in a final snippet in his sources, which mentions a city's crisis that has been years in the making, leading to talk of job losses, reduced museum opening times.
Higher collection charges.
And while the sources don't explicitly say that specific crisis was caused by a cyber attack, its presence in the news timeline provides crucial context. It illustrates the result of sustained resource depletion.
We can draw a clear analogy. Technical debt, the cost of neglecting known security flaws. It becomes financial debt. The cost of recovering from a major digital failure is so immense that resources have to be pulled from essential public services.
So the cost of a major hack isn't just the ransom.
No. It is potentially measured in cuts to public libraries and reduced museum hours years down the road. It's the slow, steady erosion of civic quality of life.
Okay, let's synthesize this deep dive. We started with a local school in central England, forced to close. They hoped for 2 days, but it turned into a full week. And that incident showed the profound, real-world impact on learning and families.
And in tracing the threads, we established that these attacks on schools are severely disruptive. They involve critical risk, the theft of sensitive data, and these local events are happening within a high-threat landscape impacting everything.
From government integrity and air traffic control all the way down to commercial digital loot. The local struggle is just a microcosm of a global vulnerability.
Precisely.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? This deep dive shows that the cost of an attack isn't measured in just ransom payments or server replacement. It's measured in delayed education, compromised personal security, and the long-term erosion of public services.
As resources are diverted to perpetual patching and recovery from known yet unfixed vulnerabilities.
Right.
And that leads to a final thought for you to mull over. Considering that the sources suggest a lack of training is a primary cause for future attacks, and that some municipal crises are reported as years in the making,
We have to ask,
how many years into the future will the reverberations of today's digital compromises extend? Will the students currently losing class time be the ones paying higher city collection charges a decade from now, footing the bill for technical debt that should have been paid today? That is the true hidden long-term cost we are just beginning to measure.